Paradigms of others. We have paradigms not only about ourselves, but also about other people, as they can be way out of whack too. Seeing things from a different point of view can help us understand why other people act the way they do. Becky told me about her paradigm shift. As a junior in high school, I had a friend named Kim. She was essentially a nice person, but as the year progressed, it became more and more difficult to get along with her. She was easily offended and often felt left out. She was moody and difficult to be around. I got to the point where my friends and I started calling her less and less. Eventually, we stopped inviting her to things. I was gone for a good part of the summer after that year, and when I returned, I was talking to a good friend of mine, catching up on all the news. She was telling me about all the gossip, the different romances, who was dating who, and so on, when suddenly she said, "Oh, did I tell you about Kim? She's been having a hard time lately because her parents are going through a really messy divorce. She's taking it really hard." When I heard this, my whole perspective changed. Rather than being annoyed by Kim's behavior, I felt terrible about my own. I felt I had deserted her in her time of need. Just by knowing that one little bit of information, my whole attitude toward her changed. It was really an eye-opening experience. And to think that all it took to change Becky's paradigm was a smidgen of new information. We too often judge people without having all the facts. Monica had a similar experience. I used to live in California where I had a lot of good friends. I didn't care about anybody new because I already had my friends and I thought that new people should deal with it in their own way. Then, when I moved, I was the new kid and wished that someone would care about me and make me part of their group of friends. I see things in a very different way now. I know what it feels like to not have any friends. Seeing things from another point of view can make all the difference in our attitude towards others. I'll bet Monica will never treat new kids on the block the same way again. Oh, wow, a paradigm shift. The following anecdote from Reader's Digest is a classic example of a paradigm shift. A friend of mine, returning to South Africa from a long stay in Europe, found herself with some time to spare at London's Heathrow Airport. Buying a cup of coffee and a small package of cookies, she staggered, laden with luggage, to an unoccupied table. She was reading the morning paper when she became aware of someone rustling at her table. From behind her paper, she was flabbergasted to see a neatly dressed young man helping himself to her cookies. She did not want to make a scene, so she leaned across and took a cookie herself. A minute or so passed. More rustling. He was helping himself to another cookie. By the time they were down to the last cookie in the package, she was very angry, but still could not bring herself to say anything. Then the young man broke the cookie in two, pushed half across to her, ate the other half, and left. Some time later, when the public address system called for her to present her ticket, she was still fuming. Imagine her embarrassment when she opened her handbag and was confronted by her package of cookies. She had been eating his. Consider this lady's feelings toward the neatly dressed young man before the turn of events. What a rude, presumptive young man. Imagine her feelings after. How embarrassing. How kind of him to share his last cookie with me. So what's the point? It's simply this. Often our paradigms are incomplete, inaccurate, or kind of messed up. We shouldn't be so quick to judge, label, or form rigid opinions of others, or of ourselves for that matter. From a limited point of view, it's hard to see the whole picture or have all the facts. In addition, we should open our minds and hearts to new information, ideas, and points of view. We should be willing to change our paradigms when it becomes clear that they're wrong. Is it obvious that if you want to make big changes in your life, change your lens? Everything else will follow. When you really think about it, you'll realize that most of your paradigms, with relationships, self-image, and attitude, are the result of a messed up paradigm or two. For instance, if you have a poor relationship with, say, your dad, it's likely that both of you have a warped paradigm of each other. You may think he's being harsh or putting too much pressure on you. He may see you as being a spoiled, ungrateful brat. In reality, both of your paradigms are probably incomplete and are holding you back from real communication with each other. As you'll see, this book will challenge many of your paradigms and hopefully will help you create more accurate and complete ones. So get ready. Paradigms of life. We don't just have paradigms about ourselves and others. We also have paradigms about the world in general. You can usually tell what your paradigm is by asking yourself a few questions. What is the driving force of my life? What do I spend my time thinking about? Who or what are my obsessions? Whatever's most important to you will become your paradigm, your glasses, or as I like to call it, your life center. Some of the more popular life centers for teens include friends, stuff, boyfriend or girlfriend, school, parents, sports or hobbies, heroes, enemies, self, and work. Of course, they each have their good points, but they are all incomplete in one way or another. And I'm about to show you they'll mess you up if you center your life on them. Luckily, there is one center that you can always count on, and we'll save that for last. Friend-centered. There's nothing better than belonging to a great group of friends and nothing worse than feeling like an outcast. Friends are important, but should never become your center. Why? Well, occasionally they're fickle. Now and then they're fake. Sometimes they talk behind your back or develop new friendships and forget yours. They have mood swings. They move. In addition, if you base your identity on being accepted, being popular, or having the most friends on Facebook or any social media, you may find yourself compromising your standards or changing them every weekend to accommodate your friends. Believe it or not, the day will come when friends will not be the biggest thing in your life. In high school, I had an amazing group of friends. We did everything together. Swam in irrigation canals, gorged at all-you-can-eat buffets, snowmobiled all through the night, dated one another's girlfriends, you name it. I loved these guys. I figured we'd be close forever. Since high school graduation, though, I've been shocked by how seldom we see one another. Now, years later, we live far apart, and new relationships, jobs, and family take up our time. As a teen, I never could have fathomed this. Make as many friends as you can, but don't build your life on them. It's an unstable foundation. People will change. You will change. Stuff-centered. Sometimes we see the world through the lens of possessions or stuff. We live in a material world that teaches us that he who dies with the most toys wins. We feel as if we're supposed to have the fastest car, the nicest clothes, the latest smartphone, the best hairstyle, and the many other things that apparently bring happiness. Possessions also come in the form of titles and accomplishments such as head cheerleader, star of the play, valedictorian, student body officer, editor-in-chief, or MVP. There's nothing wrong with achieving success and enjoying our stuff, but things should never become the center of our lives. In the end, they have no lasting value. Our confidence needs to come from within, not from without. From the quality of our hearts, not the quantity of things we own. After all, he who dies with the most toys still dies. I knew a girl who had the most beautiful and expensive wardrobe I'd ever seen. She never wore the same outfit twice. After getting to know her better, I started to notice that she had a bad case of elevator eyes. It seemed that whenever she talked with another girl, she'd eye her from head to foot to see if her outfit was as nice as her own, which usually gave her a superiority complex. Her self-confidence depended on owning stuff. It didn't come from her own personality, smarts, or kindness. It was a real turnoff to me. I read a saying once that says it better than I can. If who I am is what I have and what I have is lost, then who am I? Boyfriend-girlfriend centered. This may be the easiest trap of all to fall into. I mean, who hasn't been focused on a crush or a boyfriend or girlfriend at one point? Let's pretend Brady centers his life on his girlfriend Tasha. Now watch the instability it creates in Brady. Tasha's actions makes a thoughtless comment. Brady's reaction. My day is ruined. Tasha talks to Brady's best friend. Brady. Are they flirting? They're both betraying me. Tasha. I think we should date other people. Brady. My life is over. You never loved me. The ironic thing is that the more you center your life on someone, the less attractive you become to that person. How's that? Well, first of all, if you're centered on someone, you're no longer hard to get. Second, it's irritating when someone builds their entire emotional life around you. Since their security comes from you and not from within themselves, they always need to have those sickening where do we stand talks. When I began dating my wife, one of the things that attracted me most was that she didn't center her life on me. I'll never forget the time she turned me down, with a smile and no apology, for a very important date. I loved it. She was her own person and had her own inner strength. Her moods were independent of mine. Believe me, you'll be a better boyfriend or girlfriend if you're not totally obsessed with your partner. This goes for getting a boyfriend or girlfriend too. If you make your crush the center of your life, it can sometimes come off as desperate or needy. Independence is far more attractive than dependence. Besides, centering your life on another doesn't show that you love them, only that you're dependent on them. You can usually tell when a couple becomes centered on each other because they are forever breaking up and getting back together. Although their relationship has gone to pot, their emotional lives and identities are so intertwined that they can't let go of each other. Have as many girlfriends or boyfriends as you'd like, just don't make them your center because although there are exceptions, teenage romantic relationships are usually about as stable as a yo-yo. School-centered. Among teens, centering one's life on school is more common than you might think. Lisa from Canada regrets being school-centered for so long. I have been so ambitious and so school-centered that I haven't enjoyed my youth. It has not only been unhealthy for myself, but it's been selfish because all I cared about was me and my achievements. As a seventh grader, I was already working as hard as a college student. I wanted to be a brain surgeon just because it was the hardest thing I could think of. I would get up at 6 every morning all through school and not go to bed before 2 a.m. in order to achieve. I thought teachers and peers expected it of me. They would they would always be surprised if I didn't get perfect grades. My parents tried to loosen me up, but my own expectations were as great as that of the teachers and peers. I realize now that I could have accomplished what I wanted without trying so hard, and I could have had a good time doing it. Our education is vital to our future and should be a top priority, but we must be careful not to let ACT or SAT, GPAs, and AP classes take over our lives. School-centered teens often become so obsessed with getting good grades that they forget that the real purpose of school is to learn. You can do extremely well in school and still maintain a healthy balance in life. Thank goodness our worth isn't measured by our GPA. Parent-centered. Your parents can be your greatest source of love and guidance, and you should respect and honor them, but living to please them above everything else can become a real nightmare. Don't tell your parents I said that or they might take away your book. Just kidding. Read what happened to this young girl from Louisiana. I worked so hard all semester, I just knew that my parents would be pleased. 6 A's and 1 B plus. But all I could see in their eyes was disappointment. All they wanted to know is why the B plus wasn't an A. It was all I could do not to cry. What did they want from me? That was my sophomore year of high school, and I spent the next 2 years trying to make my parents proud of me. I played basketball, and I hoped they would be proud. They never came to see me play. I made the honor roll every semester. But after a while, straight A's were just expected. I was going to go to college to be a teacher, but there was no money in that, and my parents felt that I would be better off studying something else. So I did. Every decision I made was prefaced with the questions, what would Mom and Dad want me to do? Would they be proud? Would they love me? But no matter what I did, it was never good enough. I had based my whole life on the goals and aspirations my parents thought were good, and it didn't make me happy. I felt out of control and worthless, and useless and unimportant. Eventually, I realized that my parents' approval wasn't coming, and if I didn't get my act together, I would destroy myself. I needed to find a center that was timeless, unchanging, and real, a center that couldn't shout, disapprove, or criticize. So I started to live my own life by the principles that I thought would bring me happiness, like honesty with myself and my parents, faith in a happier life, hope for the future, and belief in my own goodness. In the beginning, I sort of had to pretend that I was strong, but over a period of time, I became strong. Finally, I struck out on my own and had a falling out with my folks, but it made them see me for who I was, and they loved me. They apologized for all the pressure they put on me and expressed their love. I was 18 years old before I ever remember my dad saying, I love you, but they were the sweetest words I had ever heard and well worth the wait. I still care about what my parents think, and I still am influenced by their opinions, but ultimately I have become responsible for my own life and my actions, and I try to please myself before anything else. Other possible centers. The list of possible centers could go on and on. Being sports or hobby centered is a big one. How many times have we seen a sports center jock build his identity about being a great athlete only to suffer a career-ending injury? It happens all the time. And the poor kid is left to rebuild his life from scratch. The same goes for any hobbies and interests, dance, debate, drama, music, and clubs. And what about hero-centered? If you build your life around a rock star, famous athlete or entrepreneur or powerful politician, what happens if they die, do something really stupid, or end up in jail? Who will you look up to then? Sometimes we can even become enemy-centered and build our lives around hating a group or a person or an idea. There are countless websites dedicated to hating